No more cars, guys. To heck with them. Let's get rid of them. No more cars. We got to get they're a bad thing in total, and we'll find a way to make it happen. I'm Brian. Welcome to my Tesla weekend. Oh, Jan, so good to see you again.
Hi, Brian.
I figured if I'm going to have a chance to talk about a solution that doesn't involve cars, mass transit, buses, trains, etc., I should talk to someone who lives in a country where mass transit is largely effective. And before I do that, I should say a quick shout out to newest patron, Roy Epp. Thank you, Roy, for joining the channel as a supporter. That's your guys' support that makes it possible. So you can do that on X, on YouTube as a member, or on Patreon. There's little benefits, but mostly it's just keeping the channel going and feeding my children, because I'm not going to do it. So, yeah. So there's a movement that says get rid of all cars. And I think, and I have yet to see some great solutions. I know Engineering Explained said, hey, look, I'm not entirely, there's a tweet that said something like, I'm not entirely convinced that cars are the solution. And I said, short of tearing down the cities and building all new ones, which is kind of a big ask, what is the solution? Because mass transit is very expensive and difficult. So tell me how mass transit works in Germany.
So the mass transit that we mostly use are buses, of course, and especially the train, the railway. And also the Straßenbahn, for example, in Berlin, that's these smaller city trains that you can see going around. In many cities we have those as well, and the subway, of course. We have also subway systems here. Especially in Berlin, for example, it's a great subway system there. It works, everything's fine, you're pretty fast there. But talking about mass transit, it's about the whole system around that. And of course, Germany has like a big train infrastructure built out already. But I must say it's a little janky. I have to say that, sadly, because in Germany we always have delays in the train, and you have to go to our neighbors to see a system where it works pretty good, and that's Switzerland, actually. Switzerland has one of the best built-out train lines in the whole world, besides Japan as well. And Switzerland has almost a stop in every village. It spans the whole country, so even they even have trains that go up the mountains and everything, and very beautiful scenery. You can even book a ticket to ride the train for the day, and stuff like this. So a special ticket for tourists and everything. So this makes a lot of sense, and they're pretty fast. You're pretty fast where you go. It almost takes no time, and it also makes sense for that. But overall, it's very popular to ride the train as well in Germany, but most of the time people complain about the delays, or that trains are just don't arrive or something like this. We also have this like this. Maybe some American viewers don't actually know that our train system could be improved, but overall it's pretty much adapted. But that's also the thing that people still use their car as well, because it's a little bit more reliable than the train. Yeah.
So my experience in Germany was we wanted to go to the cinema. We rode our bikes to the train station. We took the train into town and we watched a movie. But we didn't watch the end of it because the last train back to Rostrath was at, 10. Something that was too early. Yeah. We planned it poorly. I think that's on us. And for that matter, if you wish to go to any major city, you could take the train into town, get on the interstate train. I would say delays are not going to be a killer to this, because traffic already has delays. It's just trading one delay for a different delay. That could be improved, but that doesn't mean it doesn't work. Car ownership in Germany, though, where mass transit is available, car ownership is still 80%. Something like 73% individual, 7% company cars. That strikes me as a very high number for a country with mass transit. Can you explain that?
Yeah, that's what I was hinting at a little bit here. That's because the reliability. We have problems with our system. That's again the German way. It's just super complicated. The Deutsche Bahn, the German train, it was privatized. It was owned by the state before, but since it's privatized, it's split up into thousands and thousands of divisions. One is just for the trains, one is for the train stations, one is for the kiosks in those train stations, and one is for transportation of for example, packages and everything. So logistics and stuff like this. And so it's very complicated. That's why it works janky. But in the cities itself, for example, the subway systems, for example, are working fine. If you live in Berlin, most of the people don't even own cars there. They just go by the public transit, of course. And this also makes sense. And it's also a price debate. That's why many people say, it's still cheaper to fill up your tank, drive your car, than to buy a train ticket, because the train tickets are very expensive. But they did a test in Germany where the train ticket for 1 month just cost $9 to go the whole country. And everybody and their mom bought this, of course,
Wow.
and they used it. But so this was a case that many people used the public transport. It got a huge boost after that. And now I think they even lowered the price again to a ticket for $90 around that corner, but I'm not really sure. But the number you've just said, that's why we still have the cars, because it's about a little bit the cost and the reliability of the, let's say, the state train. Like the state train is a different story, and many people are driving from state to state to work, for example, because Germany's in comparison pretty small if you compare it to the US, of course. Yeah.
Germany geographically is roughly the size of the state of Oregon. Mm-hmm. And your population is what now?
Our population should be around 80 million.
Okay. So it's the population of California in a state the size of Oregon. So that's
it's 83 million now.
Oh, my apologies to the
Yeah.
to the 3 million
Yeah.
people we forgot.
Yeah,
That's very insensitive.
Don't
of us.
write no 3 million hate comments, please.
Please leave 3 million comments on this video.
If we
So
hit that,
one of the misconceptions is that population density is too low in the U.S. And if you look at the entire U.S., that's true, but you're forgetting that most of the U.S. is empty. If you just look at population density along the coasts, along the dense areas where the people actually live, it is comparable to other countries where mass transit is effective. I think the problem we have is that mass transit costs money, and politicians do not get elected by saying, I'm going to raise your taxes, even if it's to make your life better. And there are times when taxes are helpful. And, well, I shouldn't pay tax. I don't even take the bus. Right, but the 100 people on that bus are not on the road with you now. So that's a win. That's a better deal for you as a driver. So it can work. It's just that we are a nation founded on not paying tax. We have never let that go.
and freedom. I think like this freedom thing is also a part where this narrative was played maybe from, I don't know, the 60s till the 90s or something, in that area, that you are autonomous, you go where you want, Route 66, you know what I mean? Like this Easy Rider, the movie, was like a big impact, actually, like freedom, breaking off, driving your own machine, being free. And of course, train tracks are the opposite of being free, because you have to go this line and just that. But I think overall, it could be possible in the US as well. It can make sense if it works. For example, Switzerland is a good example, but they are pretty small country, so hard to block that to the whole nation of the US. It's difficult, but yeah.
So I would argue that car ownership does not need to exist independently of mass transit, because Germany is a good example. Germany, 80% of people own a car, but even those people who own cars sometimes take mass transit. I would argue most
Of
of them
course.
take mass transit every year. And how many miles do you think the average German drives in a year?
Oh, I don't know. I can't even tell.
According
you
to
know.
Car Vertical, it is 8,452 miles, which puts it at about 30 to 40% less than Americans. We drive 12 to 15,000 a year. So it is, so you can have a car and just not drive it, keep it for 5, 10 years longer, keep it in better shape. So I don't see it as necessarily an either or solution. We can have responsible transportation policies that allow people to actually get around without being required to use a car all the time. I think it's partially a cultural shift. We definitely are a car people. On the West Coast was built with automobiles in mind, really, and because we're such a new country too, and we fancy ourselves the people who popularized the whole idea of a road trip. Having one of the first really massive interstate highway systems in the world. And like you were saying, Easy Ride or Route 66, the idea of getting in a car and just going and finding yourself is a different idea than I'm going to hop on a Greyhound and I don't know. I assume get coughed on by homeless people. I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't been on a Greyhound in a while, but I know that after 9/11, they did a great job of deterring terrorism by making sure people just didn't want to get on a Greyhound. So it makes it an easy target to avoid.
Yeah, but
Yes.
what I wanted to add maybe for context here, I think in the US it's a little bit different because you have, I mean, what are short drives for you in comparison? I would be interested.
An hour.
Okay, an hour for you is a short drive. Okay. You have to imagine that from the point where I live, for example, it's 3 hours to Paris. All right? So,
Wow.
Yeah, or 3.5 hours to Paris. So, for context, this is for me, that's a crazy trip. I wouldn't, I can't even, that's for me holiday. I would go to a holiday there. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
So the Germans have everything pretty close together because we are very dense overall in the country. I mean, I could drive around 4 hours to Italy. You know what I mean? And it's crazy. Yeah. So when you want to drive from one end of Texas to the other end of Texas, it's a total. I mean, how long are you? I don't know, on the road. 10, 12,
at least a day. At least
Yeah.
a day. It is brutal.
Yeah,
It is
and that's what I mean. Sometimes the cities are so spread out in some sense, so it's a little bit different in that sense. You have to really build it out from the core of the city, and then expand and have great lines to connect those cities afterwards. But you have to start in the city and build it out there. Yeah.
That's very interesting. I can't tell you how many times I've done 4,000 to 5,000 plus miles in 2 weeks. If we're doing a road trip, I've driven all the way to New Mexico and back the long way.
God.
And
I
I've
can't
had
even imagine.
I've done 12-hour driving days, which is just not pleasant at all. But and I've done them back to back, which is even worse. So, guys, in the comments, what do you think? What is the solution? How do we reduce dependence on cars without something that requires $10 trillion in 30 years? Because rebuilding cities is not the solution. That is not a low carbon idea. And can we do it in a way that grouchy taxpayers will actually approve of? And if you get a chance, guys, could you do me a favor? Could you check out Jan from Tesla Fix? Because he gets some pretty ridiculously great interviews. And he's probably got one coming up that he hasn't even told me about. Because I've got a couple theories about who he might be talking to next. Don't want to spoil anything.
Very awesome person. And we're not going to spoil that. But please follow the channel so you don't miss out who it could be. A mysterious person you might know already.
Well, Yes, you can tell me off the channel, but it's exciting. You'll see. So, everyone else, like, subscribe, do the usual thing. Smack buttons. Just smack buttons. It doesn't matter
Everything.
which one. If you want to like this video, hit Alt F4 and stay
Or
tuned.
Apple and Q, and that's also
Apple Q. Yep, you
yeah.
can hit that. Yeah, and for everyone else, stay tuned, stay juicy, and I can't wait to hear from you, clever robots, on the flippity flop.
Bye.